COVID-19 has put the world at a standstill. The socio-economic impact has been devastating worldwide. The tourism industry has been hit particularly hard both in Nepal and in other parts of the world. Although Nepal now has taken a moment to pause, we are hopeful about the future when tourism resumes. With this discussion, we hope to shed some positive light and raise hope for the future. We are very glad Mr. Deepak Raj Joshi, former CEO of Nepal Tourism Board, could join us for this discussion. Mr. Deepak Raj Joshi is an expert on tourism with over 20 years of experience in destination management, tourism promotion, and public-private partnership. He was appointed as the CEO of Nepal Tourism Board in 2015 and had a successful 4-year-old tenure. One of his most notable achievements include leading tourism rebuilding efforts post the massive earthquakes in Nepal, for which he was recognized nationally and internationally. In 2018, he was awarded with the prestigious Champions in Challenge Award by the International Institute for Peace through Tourism. Currently, he is representing Nepal in the Task Force for Rebuilding Travel. Thank you so much for being here today to discuss ways we can sustainably rebuild Nepal after COVID. I think this is a good time, to start this discussion. So let's start with the first question.
Thank you.
So before we talk about COVID and its impact, can you please explain what sustainable tourism means in the context of Nepal? So for example, like other countries are far ahead. Other countries, maybe talking about carbon emissions or things of that sort, but we as an industry, we're not there yet. So can you please elaborate a little bit on what sustainable tourism means in our context?
Nepal is not a new destination in tourism. We have 60 plus years of experience handling tourism in Nepal. And over the years, when we talk about the sustainable development theory or principles, it became popular only during 80s. But in practice, we have been practicing since quite long. Mostly our destinations are very much nature-based destinations. The world knows that Nepal is very, very popular for trekking, for climbing, for rafting, for wildlife. These kind of products are very, very popular in the world map. In these all activities, we have been following sustainable development practices. Tourism has immense potential for Nepal. This is the business which is the most environment friendly business. This is the sector which interlinks the local communities as it grows. That's how Nepal is always following sustainable tourism business practices. And there is much more to do as we grow, because the amount of potential that we have not been able to unleash that potential. So as we grow, we have much more importance in the future too. But even from our childhood, we have been taught that how important it is to save our nature, to save our culture. For example, if we talk about legends, in Nepal, in our childhood, we used to taught that everything related with the god or goddesses, be it water or stone or forest or the air. So everything has a very pure relation, attachment that is being taught from our childhood. That's why culturally also we are very much aware of protecting these things. While talking about the business, in business practices, lately it has been a prime concern for many tour operators also. I can give some examples in this regard. Even international organizations also focusing on it. Locally also, like Royal Mount Travel, they have been doing an amazing job. In many other areas, other institutions also working on it. Institutions like WWF, Nature Trust for Nature Conservation, national parks and wildlife, Department of Archaeology and Culture. These kind of institutions, they are working on it. And regarding the promotion of such practices, our promotional institutions like Tourism Board and the Ministry, they are also promoting these kind of activities. So I think the awareness is growing.
Do you think that's because travelers around the world, they're demanding this sort of practices to be implemented by these organizations?
Uh, the one thing is that even the travelers, they are being more aware. Responsible traveling type of things are growing. People are looking for a kind of transformation in their travel packages. Travel pack more than luxury and leisure. The tourism activities are being driven towards lifetime experiences to gain some kind of knowledge, to bring some changes in their life. So that kind of pattern is also growing. Maybe that is how we are being influenced. That is one thing. And in another side, the destinations, I mean the supply side also, the hoteliers, travel agents, DMOs are also equally aware in this segment because what mostly these communities they have realized is if we cannot sustain these strength or these attractions or activities, we cannot do business in long term because our life is, our concerns are for long term, for our generations to come. So that's how both the sides awareness has grown up. So I believe that these practice will contribute more. And we need to promote more. It is not sufficient, but the way it is going, it is quite satisfactory.
Yeah. Thank you. So moving on to the next question. What do you think are some of the best practices in Nepal in terms of sustainability that can be shared with countries around the world?
There are many. I think Nepal has much more successful examples that we have not been able to communicate with the world. And this is the time that we should, for the larger benefit of the world tourism community, while talking about, for example, our in trekking trail areas, the most of the trekking trails are being managed by local communities. For example, in conservation effort, we have been doing exemplary efforts in conservation simply because of the ownership, the care, the concern that local communities are taking up. For example, while talking about wildlife conservation, Nepal is becoming the only country in 2022 to double its tiger population. Since many years, Nepal has been a kind of privileged destination to have zero poaching years. If we talk about our total land mass, I think 40 plus percent of our land mass is conserved as a protected areas. So these are very, very successful examples that we have, not only in the wildlife or nature-based activities, even for the cultural assets, our age-old traditions like gumbas, temples, type of things are also being conserved through local institutions. They are a very typical type of local institutions. I think it will be a wonderful attraction for many researchers to come and research about it. So not only in the community side, also in the business side also well. I would like to take one example of a few tour operators like Royal Mount Travel. They have been managing not only keeping the guests in the big 5-star hotels. They have been managed on community homestay network, having I think 7, 8, 9 homestays, and linking with these activities with travelers, so that tourism can contribute in the local livelihood also. So that kind of so many good practices we have. Tourism is much more than just an economic sector. It is one of the few environment-friendly business and large foreign exchange honor for Nepal. And it is the industry that interlinks communities and helps to evolve tourism entrepreneurs with less investment. So it has much more bigger role compared to other business segments. It creates impactful potential interactions with other economic sectors as well, developing sustainable backward and forward linkages. So I believe in these lines, not only the government segments or the community segments, the business segments are equally coming up with many successful.
Okay, thank you. So to summarize, I guess what the world can learn from Nepal is to also include communities when it comes to developing tourism, designing community-based experiences and
Yeah,
helping.
to mention about very precisely, I think one in how community is involved in conserving the traditional our the treasures, I mean the cultural treasures and the wildlife and then the natural things.
Mhm.
That is really very very exemplary in Nepal. In
Right.
many other destinations, it is being taught also.
Mm.
And this is not a recent phenomenon. I think there are institutions who are working in this line since last 40 years, 50 years.
Right. Right. But in a post-COVID world, I guess, what do you think will be some of the trends that will define travel?
Yes, since the beginning of COVID-19 outbreak, the private sector, the government bodies, and key stakeholders in tourism are designing and trying to implement a series of measures to reduce the risk of the cases of the control of these virus in Nepal. But in business practice, it is seriously impacting because the tourism is one of the hardest hit industry after corona outbreak, because tourism is the business which is closely related with the movements of the people. I think there are some good and some bad impacts of corona. The one thing is, for short term, we are losing our business, we are losing our jobs. That kind of things are there. Maybe that there are some threats in health segments. But in the long term, I think the corona has also given a kind of special forceful time to rethink about our past practices.
Mhm.
In most of the destinations, not only the tourism, most of the business sectors were handled like having a dream of getting money, 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 and money type of things. So money is not everything. This
Mhm.
corona is giving kind of lesson. And not only that, we need to design some new practices now. So where I think sustainable development tourism practices has already created a solid foundation, and we need to build up more. We need to put on more on these practices. I believe that in short term we are losing, but while talking in the long term, the many destinations will gain, because people will look for nature-based activities. People will look for some, the isolation area, so that tourism can be diversified, because the crowded areas will not be the choice of travelers, most of the travelers. So people will look for more isolation areas. So that will help to diversify our tourism, diversify the benefit of the tourism, and then to link more areas with the tourism. So that's how I am looking at the positive side of COVID-19.
So when we move past this, move past, when we recover from the short term and move into the long term, what do you think are three things that our tour operators need to keep in mind in a post-COVID world to promote tourism sustainably?
Basically, tour operators need to look at three major things. I think one is safety measures,
Mm-hmm.
how we can assure the safety concern of the travelers, because people are so much worried about this virus like never before. And then there are some things like the perception wise and the reality wise, sometimes there are different things. While coming again to the community tourism, or the village tourism side, there is a kind of perception right now that immediate perception is in community there might be a threat of coronavirus. Even the communities are also might be afraid that the hosting tourists or having guests might be a kind of threat for coronavirus. But in long term, the communities are more aware, are more concerned about their own health. So obviously they are also looking for the safety measures. So that's how we need to assure the travelers about the safety concern. While talking about the Nepal, the government has already announced the safety protocols for various sectors, including hotel, restaurants, homestays, travel and tour operation, airlines, airports. In these many sectors, we have already released our safety protocols, and we have already given training also to the frontline officials who are working on it. So the safety concern is prime, number one concern. And second is the value for the travelers, what value they will get while coming to the particular destinations. That is also the prime concern for travelers. Many research studies have shown that most of the travelers, they will be choosing for nature-based destinations, destinations which are in isolation, the experiences that help to transform ourselves, more spa, wellness, health kind of things. In food also, people are concerned more about the hygienic foods rather than packed foods or the junk foods. So people are more looking for that side. In these all sides, Nepal has a very, very strong foundation because the our when you talk about our destinations, most of the destinations are our activities are in 2000 plus meter altitudes like trekking. So in trekking, not by choice but by compulsion, we have to follow isolation. I mean the safe distancing, because everyone cannot walk in the same pace in high altitude areas. So when we talk about the medicine facilities in those areas, the houses in our hilly sites, they themselves are very, very scattered. At least 500 meter, 200 meter, 300 meter, or 50 meter distance they are located. So that is also a very good thing. And the nature is already there. Nepal is not a crowded destination. Our total annual arrival in 2019 was 1.2 million in the landmass of 150, nearly 50,000 square kilometer. And that is also most of the visitors were in the urban area. When we talk about the trekking areas, nearly 300,000 visitors used to go in trekking areas. Nearly 200,000 visitors used to go in national parks. So our attractions and the destinations itself are in isolation areas. And then Nepal has a very much kind of healing power. And that's what the visitors are looking at, the value thing. And third is the travel cost. Because especially after this pandemic, people are losing their jobs. The flight cost might be costlier. But when we talk about Nepal, this is a very, very high value destination where we can enjoy many, many activities, world-class activities in a very, very less expensive ways. This is a value of money destination also, not only the value of experiences, but the value of money also. So in these all three segments, Nepal is very, very strong, but we need to communicate more. And I believe that Nepal has been a very, very privileged destination in two lines. One is Nepal is very, very beautiful. And the second is Nepal is loved by many. Many visitors, many tour operators, many supporting hands we have. So I think these three messages will be communicated through these friends of Nepal also.
Right. So do you think when it comes to the supplier side, this is a good opportunity to develop other regions that have traditionally maybe been left out, like in the Karnali region, or in the east, where there's mostly domestic travelers but very few international ones. So do you think this would be an opportunity for suppliers to invest in the long term in terms of like developing other isolated areas?
Definitely, this is the time to look for new areas, and this is the time to collaborate more. We need more collaboration between public and private sector, because in isolation, tourism cannot be developed. So we need to have joint effort. We need to synergize our efforts. There are immense opportunities to diversify, and this is a very, very relevant time also. As I mentioned earlier, people are not looking for the crowded areas where the millions of visitors are going. So when people are looking for new areas, there are many new areas with equal amount of attraction. Like you mentioned, Karnali in the west, or Khaptar or Sudur Pasim area in the west, or the Kanchenjunga, Ilam, Makalu in the east region. These are amazing areas, very, very unique natural attractions we have, very unique geography there is, very unique cultural traditions there are, and at the same time very less crowded area that is. So we can diversify. And then in the development side, we have 7 new provinces now, and then many new municipalities and village development corporations, and they have local authorities now. They have a strong willingness to develop their areas as a tourist destination. The resource wise and then the willingness wise, they are very much eager to highlight their areas. And then the expertise wise, we have a very strong private sector, tour operators, hoteliers, and they have to fill this gap. They have to support the local communities to come forward in tourism. So knowledge wise, the expertise wise, I think there is a big role where private tour operators can play. There are a few travel companies who are doing exemplary role in Nepal. So I believe that they will jump more to initiate some new programs in these new areas also.
Yeah. So moving on. So as the private sector gets involved in developing tourism in a post-COVID world, when it comes to the government, having worked for Nepal Tourism Board, what do you think, what kind of government support do you think will be required to rebuild tourism
Mhm.
after COVID?
Government need to play a very, very crucial role. One is in most of the times we need policy interventions to grow local communities. Maybe it can be some, the special quotas or special programs designed for a special area. So in that line, in policy intervention, government can work and should work. And then second is in the capacity building of local communities in new areas like the business communities in Kathmandu, Pokhara, Chittagong or Lumbini, they are quite experienced and well exposed to the world. But in new areas, people are less aware or less educated in these areas. So exposing them to the developed areas and then helping them in capacity building is another major intervention the local communities are looking for from the government bodies. And then third is linking with the market where institutions like Nepal Tourism Board, who is National Tourism Organization and whose role is to position Nepal or the market Nepal as a premier world destination. So connecting them with the source markets through various tools is another intervention that local communities are looking for from the government bodies.
And going back again to destination management companies, tour operators, what do you think are some responsibilities that they should be required to follow to rebuild tourism?
One side, the destination management companies and tour operators, they have to closely observe the trend of the traveling. These days, most of the travelers, they are looking for transformative experiences. And that transformation, I mean, that healing power, that change bringing power, that new knowledge is with local communities, in rural areas, in that area. Most of I was interacting with few travelers a few weeks ago, and I mean these were corporate icons. They were telling me that the going into the trekking and having adventure activities help us to build leadership qualities, to become resilient in corporate world. So that kind of very important, but the indirect power these attractions and activities have. So we need to understand this powerful, I think, phenomenon from the travel industry. And then in another side, like I already mentioned, local communities, they doesn't have idea of curating the experiences or the packaging the things. So in that line, the tourism DMCs and tour operators have biggest role to play. They need to educate, to curate, or they themselves can curate and sell in the source market. And then another thing is, this is the age of innovation and the digital world. We are into the digital world now. We are not Homo sapiens, we are Phono sapiens now. Everybody is, running their lifestyle through mobile phones, I mean the smartphones. So in this line also, tour operators need to link local communities and the travelers through digital platforms. So in this line also, I mean the intermediaries or DMCs has biggest role to play.
Right. Right. So I think what I gathered from what you've said is tour operators, destination management companies, suppliers in general, they need to move beyond just trying to make money and
Exactly, beyond the traditional practices. Otherwise, even the tour operators or DMCs, they don't have future because
yeah.
Digital intervention, they're directly making links between the travelers and the destination. I mean the communities or destinations, local destinations. So to become ourselves visible or to sustain our identity or business from from DMC or tour operators perspective, we need to move beyond our traditional practices. That's what I would like to suggest.
Right. So on the flip side, when it comes to travelers who are coming into Nepal, what do you think are some of the responsibilities that they should have when traveling resumes after COVID?
Bring all the good practices, educate local communities, help us to grow. These are the things like travelers can contribute to Nepal grow. And second thing is Nepal is a destination which has a power to change you. So try to explore that kind of experiences in Nepal. Not only like the some clubbing or city sightseeing type of activities, go into the deep. 2 days, 3 days, 4 days tour is not enough in Nepal. So at least come for a 2 week vacation so that you can really bring change. In health wise also, Nepal can contribute more because our most of the locations are very pristine, where you can get pure air and organic food, and you can make your health better. At least I think visiting a month of time, you can increase 1 year of your age. So these kind of many things that Nepal has. This is the most diverse country on earth. I would like to mention one small example. Like our lowest point on earth is 60 meters from sea level, and highest point is 8,848. That is Mount Everest. And this is just in between the distance of around 150 to 60 kilometers. So we can imagine how diverse this country is. This is not a horizontal country, it's a vertical country. But amazing, the experiences, be it wildlife or culture or nature-based or many other medicinal benefits that one travelers can get traveling into Nepal. So don't miss to visit Nepal. It is really a lifetime experience.
Right, right, right. So from this discussion, although the impact of COVID now is very, it's unfortunate, it's put us in a very tough situation. But hearing what you have to say, I think the future looks bright. I think there's an opportunity to expand and, bring in more responsible travelers who come and appreciate our culture, nature. Besides that, is there anything that you want to add?
I think not only for the visitors and tour operators, Nepal is a destination for the positive benefits. I mean the positive changes. This is the destination for investors also. Which is Nepal has a very unique weather, unique climate. For example, winter is warm in Nepal. Our 80% of landmass is in the 1,000 plus meter of altitude. And in that altitude, even in the winter, the days are sunny.
Mm-hmm.
So in the summer, 80% of landmass, our climate is never goes 30 degrees centigrade plus. So that kind of very unique strength we have. So I would like to request the investors also to come to invest in Nepal, maybe new yoga resorts or transformative tourism centers, new adventure destinations, adventure activities. Adventure has the brightest future and one of the most rapidly growing segment in tourism. So in these segments, and while talking about the sustainable tourism thing, I would like to request to all the key stakeholders, be it local communities or the government or the tour operators or the travelers, we have to think sustainable tourism development in a line that sustainable tourism only becomes sustainable when the destinations are cared by these all key segments and benefits are shared by all these key segments. So we have to be careful in this line. Let's grow together, making our destinations and business sustainable.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your valuable time. I think this was a very insightful discussion. And I'm sure people from all around the world will be happy to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts with our industry friends. Thank you. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best.